Hi, my name's Alex Harvey, and I am the creative director at RiVR, and that is reality in virtual reality. And we make virtual reality training for the blue light services all over the world. And this is basically my current reality: is team of 20 people over in Southam in the UK, artists, programmers, sales staff, operation drone pilots, photogrammetry and photography experts. And my background was Codemasters. So I used to work at Codemasters making racing games, and I would create the game trailers for the games that were coming out: Formula One, Colin McRae, Grid, Rally, Dirt, and we would usually have a lot of cars crashing in a scene, and then allow us to detach the camera on the replay, and then create really good, amazing cinematic trailers from that. So that led into RiVR in 2016, and we're going to play here just in the background while I talk an overview of the things that RiVR do. Now, I was very frustrated after leaving Codemasters that the games industry had tried to get very photorealistic graphics over the years, and then when virtual reality came out, it seemed like it had gone backwards, and it looked very much like cartoons and the Simpsons worlds. So I was very keen to bring that back to as photorealistic environments as we could. So back in 2016, we started working with Paul Spate from Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service. And that was really, back in the day, I was quite surprised at how the fire investigators did their training. They used to burn a container and then put the fire out and investigate the fire, but they couldn't really touch much of the items inside because they needed to have it for other people to come through the training. So this seemed perfect to make a photogrammetry scene from, so that they could reuse the scene. And that is what we did. That's what we did at RiVR. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But while we were doing that, these are some of the containers that you see in the videos now. While we were doing that, we developed another piece of software, which is RiVR Link. And that's basically what I'm going to talk about in this presentation. The use of virtual reality. People use the term virtual reality, but they don't really know what that term means. It's so broad. So in this little presentation, we're going to talk about two different types of virtual reality, and we make products for both types, but they are called 3 degrees of freedom and 6 degrees of freedom, or 3DOF and 6DOF. So in the future, if someone says to you, we're using virtual reality in our industry, you can say to them, is it 3DOF or 6DOF? That's hopefully what you can have after seeing this little presentation that I've got today about the RiVR products. So you can see these boxes of headsets and laptops. It's quite a mix of different hardware products that you see in front of you, but it's very simple in terms of two things: 3DOF and 6DOF. And basically the 3DOF can be used by anyone, and that's called RiVR Link. It can be used by anyone, any industry, but Investigate is very specifically for the fire investigators. So I'm going to go to the next slide now. And we've just been talking about the two different types, 3DOF and 6DOF. So with 3 degrees of freedom, virtual reality, you sit down on a chair and you move around with your head inside normally a video, and you can look all around in 360, up, down, left and right, and you've got audio. But 6 degrees of freedom, you can do the same with your head, but you can now move your legs and hands and navigate around the space a lot more, pick up objects and walk around with your feet. That's the main distinction between the two. So first I'm going to talk about 6DOF, and we did this specifically for fire investigators. So like I mentioned before, when we worked with Leicester, they were absolutely cutting edge with the things they were doing with virtual reality. They were making 360 films back in 2015. So it's very good to team up with them and create our first burn scenario. And then after making the one burn, we then created 7. And here is the process of doing those burn containers. So we use photogrammetry to recreate the scenes that the fire investigators do at the moment at the back of the fire stations or on training grounds around the world. They stage a room so it looks like a front room or a lounge or a kitchen, and they fake the fire, and then they get investigators, or they put firefighters on it first to put the fire out, and then they investigate the fire to see where the cause was, the causation of the fire. Well, we just recreated that with Jason Dean. He helped us create 7 different scenarios. Some are arson and some are not. And the main aim was to use photogrammetry to recreate the scenes so they could replay the scenes over and over again in virtual reality and from anywhere in the world, and don't have to be breathing in all of that harmful gases. So this was the process again. On the bottom left, you see that we were doing an office scene. This one was arson, so I remember the window being smashed in that scenario. And then in the bottom right, you see Jason in VR investigating another one of the scenes, the front room scene. As we move into this, I'm going to play this video because it shows off River Investigate, where we see Jason and Noddy inside the scene. So I'm going to press play now. It's only 1 minute long. We're going to watch the investigation software in action.
Using all this green screen equipment that we've got, we can now see the environment you're in.
Okay, so you can see me in the scene?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. To do the actual VR fire investigation, then all you need is a gaming laptop, headset and hand controllers, and a space big enough to do it in. I want you to go through this door, James, and you'll see you've got your fire scene inside this room. So if you look down to the door handle and push the door open, and just tell me what you think.
I'm so gobsmacked by what I can see when you compare this to what's in the real world. To say I'm surprised is an understatement. This genuinely feels like I'm in a real fire scene. Wow. I can't believe there are shadows, and the fact that I can see down the side of the cooker, for example. It's so lifelike, it's unbelievable that you can do that.
It gives you like a training memory, doesn't it? It's like digging out a real scene, but in the virtual world.
It's huge, isn't it? The fact that we can do this virtually, and the fact that you don't have to do a real burn to recreate this, is clearly a massive, massive advantage.
So we've just seen River Investigate being used, and that was Jason and Noddy inside the scene. And then here on the slide, we're seeing the Singapore Civil Defence using it as well for training their fire investigators and arson investigators. But it's also being used by Forensic Capability Network in the UK. Di Hancock and his team have been taking it around and using it as part of the accreditation towards getting the fire investigation to use it more as a tool. And the Fire Service College are also just taking it on recently. So that sells on a license fee every year, and it saves people about 5,000 UK pounds every time they do a burn, or every time they use the VR button to reset the scene, because they don't have to do a real burn. And we also get to see the whole of the fire, how the fire started, and you get to call a sniffer dog in as well to see if there was any arson involved in the scene. I'm just going to show a little bit more as I'm talking, and we'll have it on the screen so you can see some of the interactions inside the scene. Here, you're going to see me interacting with a table and looking at protection marks underneath all the items. So we're picking up different bottles that were inside, and TV that were inside the burn of this container. And we just basically copied how the investigators do their real investigations, and then put all the tools they need inside so they can do it in VR over and over again. So above the person's head on this video, you're going to see that there's a tool belt. So above the head, there's a tool belt, and they have torch and camera and evidence markers, and it allows them to investigate the scene as they would. And then at the end, you can put all the items into the lab so that you can look at them in more detail, and you can look behind things a bit more, and you can take as many photos as you like. And then right at the end, you can look at the causation of the fire and the dog. So we'll click on the dog here. And we'll see the sniffer dog just investigating the scene. And in this one, he doesn't notice that there was any accelerant used in the scene, so he doesn't indicate. So we can rule out that arson was used in this fire. So we do that for each of the scenes. So After we did that with the fire service, and made that product for them, River Investigate, we started working in the background with the UK government, DSTO and the Home Office, and those guys wanted to make a series of different virtual reality scenarios. Some of them were based on the 7/7 bombings. Some of them were a crime, murder scene, a flat. This is all in virtual reality, and they wanted to make them as photorealistic as possible. We're now on to the a forward deployed field lab, and also now we're working on another explosion outside a prominent building, all in virtual reality, so that people can train in photorealistic scenes, 6 degrees of freedom, walk around the scenes, interact with them as if they were in the real scene. So when we did the proof of concept with them, that rolled into 3 more different scenes which we're working on. But the police then wanted to have their own version of a virtual reality world. So we now created River CSI. Now, this is purely for police officers. I went to Derby University and I saw that they had a crime house where they were doing forensic investigation with the students. And they dressed the house, it was a full-size house, proper house, and they dressed it as if it was going to be trained in. So they had cameras in every room, and they were videoing all of the students going around, making sure they're doing the swabbing, fingerprints, DNA, and they monitored them. So we basically took that concept and made a virtual reality environment from it, and now it's called River CSI. There's a demo version out now. People can message and have a demo license, but I'll play the video as I'm talking here. We aim this at Oculus Quest 2 as well, so that you can have a standalone virtual reality experience and you don't have to connect to a PC. We want it to be as accessible as possible. So in this, you can do swabbing, fingerprinting, laying evidence markers, and we give at this initial start of this scene, we give you 3 different scenarios that have been created with experts in this field. We put together about 6 experts to help us create these scenarios. But then coming later this year is going to be the sandbox version of this. So you'll be able to have a tool belt of options for you to use to create your scenes. And once you've made your scenes, you'll invite your colleagues in, just using the internet connection, multiplayer stuff, to train in the same environment, as if you're in the real world. It's just like a full augmented version of the crime house inside VR. Obviously, you can see a laser scanner in here as well. That's Leica Geosystems, allow us to put the scanner in there, and that just shows that you can be looking at how you would scan a scene as well. We're doing the same thing for road traffic collisions as well, putting the scanner in so you can practice on real world scenes. But the ability in this is that you'll be able to put a body on the bed, position the body, drip blood, lay a gun. That's what the sandbox solution is going to be in the future. And then the last bit to this whole piece is that River is also creating an application, a phone-based application called the River Scanning app, which is going to allow you to scan your own guns, weapons, scenery, evidence, and bring them into virtual reality as models. So that's going to be the separate bit. That's also going to allow point cloud to come in as well. The police really want to be able to utilize the scanners that they've got. So we're going to let them bring that in. So after that, we just touched on fire and police within 6DOF. Now we can talk about 3 degrees of freedom and Riverlink, which is the other product that's 3 degrees of freedom, and it's video-based training. But if we go to organizations, I mainly say that Riverlink is their stage 1 for virtual reality. Their stage 2 is the River CSI if they're police, or River Investigate if they're fire. But there's so many different types of VR. So, for example, Flame Trainer, fire, they are great. I know those guys really well. And their Flame Trainer is specifically for training how to do using the branch and putting fires out with virtual reality. It's nothing to do with fire investigation, but it's still 6 degrees of freedom, and it still uses a VR headset. So it's very different things can be done in virtual reality. It's not just one brush. So RiVR is the classroom in a box that allows simultaneous playback of the same video, but you can all look around independently inside that world, and it's driven by an instructor. So we're not saying that you're just going to be trained once you go in a cupboard and come out. This is instructor-led training. I'll play a video of Link, and this just gives you a little bit of a view of what the box is. We sell the boxes to fire services, police stations, universities, all over the world. This is our biggest selling product. Fire Service College have just been purchasing boxes. We're just speaking to London Fire Brigade. It's very much a way now that people can get a stage 1 virtual reality. As you see here in the firehouse, there was lots of people using it. You can have 5, 10 or 15 kits, and the military have it up to 45 headsets. So I'm just going to go through some of the people that are using it. The NHS are rolling them out across the whole landscape, because people can shoot their own operations in 360 or procedures and then put it on the boxes. And the boxes are now becoming massive pots of amazing, insightful videos that can be shared among other boxes and also amongst different hospitals. The Fire Service College, they've now got 2 kits installed and they're shooting their own video. That's one of the main things here. We teach the people how to use their own cameras, 360 cameras and 2D cameras, to be able to actually use the kits themselves the same day. Shoot video, put it on the box the same day for 15 people. Some of the industries, the Fire and Rescue Service has been a big user of the kit because we were with them from the early days. So I think we're in now maybe 13 different shires, with more coming on all the time. Police forces, NHS, universities, and yeah, health and safety is a big one. But you see at the bottom left, that's the shooting kit. That's a little pelly case full of a camera and lots of memory cards that allows them to shoot all the content they need. Red Cross, German Red Cross are using it, and the military, they're a big user because they don't have to get a production company to come and film their pieces anymore. They can just shoot their own video. Warwickshire Police, they've been doing lots of video productions. You can either shoot your own video, or you can get us at RiVR, or you might have some films already to put onto the kits. If they're 360 or immersive, you can definitely use them in the same box. We've done lots of things with the American firefighters and the American government. We went and filmed with the American airports and did some security videos and taught them how to shoot their own contextual videos to load onto Link. This is a quick video that I'm going to show Link in action. So I'm going to go through it. We'll have the sound off so I can just talk about it. So you see on the table in front of us now, this is the Link box. It's a 5 kit, and this is a 360 video that lets you see inside the environment as if we're a user of this pretend training session. So we're in the room, and on the screen, one of the big problems with virtual reality is it's really hard to know what people are seeing inside the headsets. So as the headsets get handed out, they wirelessly send their image to the screen or the laptop in the background. And now we put the headset on, you see all the screens behind popped up. Now we go into the virtual classroom, and now we're inside the classroom. It's a 360 place. We can look around. You can brand this room to whatever your fire station or police security place might want. You can cast your webcam of your instructor. And now on this screen, as an instructor, you can play any 2-dimensional content. So don't throw away any old training videos, just do them inside this environment. But you can now highlight on the screen, and the beauty in here is you know that it's distraction free. So everyone inside this world, you'll be able to see their heads moving or not on down below. They're in here consuming it. They're not on Facebook. They're not distracted. So in the same world now, we're watching 2D. We can jump straight into 360. And we can pan around here at the Fire Service College, looking around. We went and filmed this with them. They're doing some big exercises. But while you're in this virtual space, all looking around on your own, you can fast forward, rewind, and also highlight on the screen here. So we highlight blue, and then we can turn around. Maybe we'll highlight the person behind. And we'll give him like a white circle around him. And then we can turn back to the front. And we come back this way, and we can close it, and now we come back into the virtual classroom, and now we're in the actual classroom. So that's just a really rough demonstration of Link. It's all in the box with one cable. So yeah, RiVR being used by lots of different industries, mainly fire and police. And it just allows simultaneous playback of all the content. And here we're going to show the shooting kit. So yeah, this is the 360 camera that allows people to shoot their own video and load it onto the boxes. When the firefighters are doing procedures or training, they could just be filming that and they can show good and bad, and then learn from it. They're using it now in Leicester. They've got 20 stations, they've got 4 kits, and they have done high-rise training based on the NOGs, the National Occupational Guidance. They've done a high-rise training set of videos, 6 different videos, and they've trained all of their 500 firefighters. And you'll have to ask Paul Spate for the actual stats, but I know they've had the HMI to inspect their training, and they've very much beaten what was required by creating these these videos for everyone to watch. And here's just another shot of the shooting kit. So yeah, I think that's a good place to end on seeing RiVR, which covers all industries, and then also seeing the police and fire, which we've been doing work in for photorealistic virtual reality. Okay, so that was it. We just saw the shooting kit, but thank you for listening. Hope this little presentation about virtual reality, 3 degrees of freedom and 6 degrees of freedom, has given you a bit of information that you can use in the future if someone mentions virtual reality to you. But if you do have any questions, please reach out to me. Best is probably LinkedIn, send me a message. And if you want to see the most up-to-date stuff, it's normally Instagram, and actually the most up-to-date at the moment is TikTok. So let me know if you want to have any more chats about virtual reality or demonstrations. And thanks for listening. Cheers.
Hi Alex, it's great to see you again, and thank you for your presentation on virtual reality and its place in the fire and security industries. So I just have a couple of questions, if that's all right with you.
Yep.
So
cool.
You spoke about how VR is becoming a central theme in training for emergency responders. So how does this differ from realistic training procedures?
I guess the main thing that we find with RiVR Investigate is that, you know, in the real world training for fire investigators, they are in there and they're obviously told to wear masks in these environments, but inside virtual reality, you are not breathing in any of those harmful gases. It costs a lot less. So yeah, you're saving money and health. They're the main benefits for the benefits of using virtual reality in that sort of way. That's really, for me, with Investigate, you know, there's different types of VR and they all have their own little points. But for Investigate, in the real world, the trainers have to breathe in lots of stuff, and now you don't have to do that. So that's the main one around that point.
And how has VR benefited the security industry so far with policing? And how do you think it can go from, and where do you think it can go from here?
I think when we talk about the security and the policing world and virtual reality, they've only really scratched the surface. I think all of these industries are only really scratching the surface now. As soon as people can understand the difference between 3DOF and 6DOF, and I must sound like a broken record because I talk about that all the time, but it's important, because if people don't understand the fundamental differences between virtual reality, then they can't look at the benefits or where they've gone from and to, and they won't be able to see what they can have in the future. So in the future, there will be a 6 degrees of freedom photorealistic training environment for every single bit of security and policing. It's just that they need to be developed one by one, and they need to fit the exact design criteria of that training that they do now. That's why it takes time. That's why we've got Flame Trainer, RiVR Investigate, RiVR CSI, and they each touch on their own area inside VR for that industry. So I think that in the future, there's going to be a suite of different things that you use in VR. It will never replace the full-on experiential learning of having a really hot fire in front of you and you've got to deal with it. But you can get halfway. You can bridge the gap between the classroom and the real world.
And as a fairly new technology, what response from the security industry have you had?
From the security industry and policing, it's been really good but slow. When we talk about organizations like that try and sit above police or fire security industries, organizations, it's hard if they don't mandate change to the forces to ever get them to do anything all on mass. So we do end up having to go like station to station and show VR, and then they buy VR, then they use VR, but there's never a top-down approach. It's always from the bottom going up.
And in terms of policing, what typical scenarios do you have on offer for VR for that type of training?
Yeah, with the policing, we've created the River CSI product, and inside there's 3 standard scenes. There's a standard burglary, there's a sexual assault, and there's I think there's a spillage of something hazardous inside the 3rd scene. That's the CSI at the moment. Then it's going to move to Sandbox, where you can make your own scene and import your own things as well. So that's what we've got within stage 1, as in video. The 6 Degrees of Freedom world. But if we move back to video, we've been doing riot police training.
You showed me that last year. Yeah. Very interesting.
It's very broad in terms of video content. We've filmed lots of different things. So yeah, knife crime, forensics, riot police training. It's we've done TPAC maneuvers and stuff in cars. So yeah, a lot.
Well, thank you, Alex, for talking to us today and giving us a greater insight into how virtual reality training can play a role, a quite important role, actually, in the training for fire and security professionals. So if you want to find out more, please do connect with Alex on the platform, and thank you for your time.